Yo guys, what is going on? Blossom's back and welcome back to another episode and the return of overrated or overpowered European New Wave Edition. You guys absolutely loved it when I made it for APGP. I think I made 4 to 5 parts and I just loved the feedback and all the kind of positive vibes that came with that series. So we're bringing it back for European New Wave. This is where I take cars which may have generated a level of hype during and before the update, when the update was being teased, and we're gonna put them down to the test with their times to see if those cars are worth the talk, or if they can walk the walk, because apparently they talk the talk, you know what I mean? So let's get into it. Overrated or overpowered. We got 9 cars. As always with every episode, I will showcase 9 cars from the update, and we are going to begin with the Skoda Enyaq Coupe. Now, the Skoda Enyaq, I don't know if I'm saying that right, Enyaq, maybe the Y is silent, it's just Enyaq, or the Q is silent, Enyaq, whatever, man. But yeah, we're starting off with this, and we're starting off strong because the Skoda Enyaq. I'm gonna call it Enyaq. I'm gonna assume that the Q is silent. Okay, don't mind me, dumb American. But anyway, yeah, it's really good. It's the best ultra rare 4-wheel drive standard tire car for the city streets small and the city streets medium, alongside Monaco Hairpin, Canyon Tour, and Twisty Circuit as well. Now we need to remember that this is an RQ61 coming up against 64s and 63s. And as you can see, the 2 most dominant ultra rares in the ultra rare standard tire meta now belong to the Skoda Enyaq, whatever it is, and the BMW 420i, which is very sad, honestly. One thing that I really didn't want to happen to top drives, which is becoming very apparent, is that the meta is basically becoming electric. Now, I don't know where you guys watching you right now, I don't know where you guys stand on electric cars. I mean, yeah, some people are like, oh, it's the future. Look, I'm old-fashioned. I mean, I always have been. I grew up watching Knight Rider and listening to Duran and Aha, right? I just like just generations where I wasn't born in, you know what I mean? And I just can't stand electric cars. That's just not me. It's just sad. It's just sad to see that the meta is slowly becoming electric, and it sucks because the meta is really just rewarding cars with, like, really good 0 to 60s, decent handling, and no top speed, which is exactly what the BMW and the Skoda are. Some other cars that are still relatively decent in the comparison with the Honda Legend 3.7, still holding its own against the Hairpin and the karting. I gotta say though, it is shaking at the seams with every new update that passes by. But I would say that the main thing that the Skoda kind of kills are the Mazda CX-90 and the CX-50. But yeah, that's a really good car. RQ61, and it's able to beat a bunch of 64s and 63s. So in my opinion, I think it is straight up Blossom Choice. So you can expect this in the new refresh Blossom Choice list. The Skoda is ridiculously strong. It's a great bargain for its RQ. It's great on the Ultra Cities, and it's also fantastic on the Twisty Circuit. Obviously, it isn't going to be as good on Ocean City streets, but on the vanilla city streets, this is a car that you want in your garage. So I'm really happy that I got one the other day. Moving on is the Citroen SM Rally du Maroc. Oh god, I'm gonna be butchering a lot of these. Let's get into the time. So if we were comparing it just against front-wheel drive cars, like front-wheel drive cars, the Citroen is the only front-wheel drive off-road rare. So I had to compare it with all surface tire front-wheel drive cars. And when you compare it against all surface tire front-wheel drive cars, it's the best. Loses to the G-Force and the Motocross, obviously, because it's not high ground clearance, the Buick Rendezvous. But then it also beats, everything else, everywhere else, which is cool. But then if you change the niche up a little bit, oh, actually, yeah, we look at ice and sand as well, and the Citroen still remains the best. But let's say we change the niche up. Instead of comparing it to, its drivetrain, why don't we compare it to its tires? So this one is going to be up against off-road tire cars. Like I said, the Citroen is the only front-wheel drive off-roader, so if I want to compare it to off-roader rares, they have to be four-wheel drive. And as you can see, that's where it kind of breaks apart. So as a front-wheel drive standalone car within that front-wheel drive niche, yeah, it's relatively strong, but when you put in the off-road tire niche, it is one of the worst, only being the best in rallycross small. Then it loses to the Mitsubishi Mitsubishi Triton, which remains one of the best cars from APGP, also losing to the Hummer H2s. So that is a little bit disappointing from the Citroen's parts, which kind of, you know, same story for Ice and Sand. It is the best for Hairpin Road, which is quite nice to see. Ocean Beach Slalom as well, but that isn't saying much, because if I put that up against like all surface tire 4-wheel drive cars, I don't know if that will still be the best. But against off-road tire cars, yeah, it's the best. And Hairpin Road is kind of like the anomaly. Like, I was kind of surprised that it was that good on Hairpin Road Sand, but then it loses on everything else compared to the Mitsubishi Triton Absolute. So honestly, in my opinion, I think the Citroen SM is like average, right? Like it's really good in the front-wheel drive off-road niche, or I guess the front-wheel drive all-surface tire niche, but it's like kind of terrible in like the off-road niche. But again, that's again 4-wheel drive cars. So it's going to be a very, very niche car. I don't think you're going to be using it too often. Even when it comes to clubs, I don't think you'll be using it too often unless it's like front-wheel drive times 5 and it's like an off-road situation. Then yeah, maybe you can get some value out of that if the RQ is low enough and you can't use the super airs and the ultra airs. It's an average car. I don't think it's good. I don't think it's bad. Moving on now is the Radical. Now this one is an interesting one because it has a disgusting 0 to 60. Like the 0 to 60 on this car is absolutely terrible. I remember at the start when this car was teased, I said that this car has to have absolutely ridiculous MRA, which, you know, good for it. Like it does. Fortunately for it, it does. And yeah, it's really, really light. And I was kind of interested to see if that lightweight would kind of carry it. Well, here's the thing that I found really interesting about the Radical. The MRA is redundant. Like the fact that the Radical has like 110 MRA or something, 108 MRA, doesn't even help it in the drags at all. But where it actually becomes a lot more impressive is actually in the twisty track sets, and I think that's because it's attributed to the fact that the car is so freaking light. I would say that the biggest accomplishment for the Radical is that it's able to beat the Lotus Exige GT3, which is one of your best twisty bargains. It's able to beat it on the car park and slalom, and it ties with it on the G-force, which is very, very impressive. Some things that are even more impressive is that the Radical is able to beat the KTM Expo and the Ginetta G50 and the Lotus Exige, which are all, you know, 2 or 3 RQ higher on slalom and car park. Now, obviously, the KTM and the Expo are going to be better everywhere else with G-force, hairpin, indoor karting, etc., etc. And the Radical is actually really, really terrible on hairpin and karting, being one of the worst cars in this comparison. And then moving on to drags, even though the Radical has the best MRA in the comparison of 103, it is not able to beat anything. Like it can't even get close. It's not even second place in anything, losing to cars like the TVR Tuscan race car as well as the Ginetta G50. So it's a very interesting one about the Radical. Like I thought it would be good, like as a quarter-mile car, but that 0 to 60 truly is terrible. Where this car really shines is how lightweight it is, but also it handles very well at 103. As an epic slalom car park car, it is ridiculously strong. Beating things like the KTM is no small feat. And it's also second best in the G-force, tied with the Exige GT3. So I do think that it's just shy of Blossom Choice. It's an incredibly niche car in very niche situations, but it's a car that you can trust that it will win and get you, you know, results if you know where to put it. And then for the Radical's case, it'll be the slalom and the car park and the G-force. Don't put it on the drags, okay? I know it's 103 MRA, but it means shit in this car. Now, moving on is this Citroen Saxo Super 1600. This could be the next one under the magnifying glass of the series. And as you can see, compared up against front-wheel drive performance tire cars, in the twisty situation, it's actually pretty damn good. Its main competitor, I predicted it to be the Renault Megane 4, and it's actually better than the Renault Megane 4, being 1 RQ cheaper. Very impressive stuff. Being the better car on fast circuit rolling, twisty circuit, slalom, and G-force, it's the best in all those scenarios, and only losing to the Renault Megane on the car park. As well as hairpin road and indoor karting. So yeah, you gotta know where to put these cars. And that's the thing with top drives now. When there are more and more and more cars, you can't really say that there's a car that rules everything anymore. You gotta know what car goes in what situation. But the Citroen Saxo is very impressive within its RQ of 51 and 52. Now, let's open it up a little bit, coming up to the drags, and the Citroen Saxo is still very, very impressive. I put in the Alfa Romeo GTV Cup, did not make a dent whatsoever, even though it has the best 0 to 150. MRA, I guess because the Citroen isn't in this comparison, because I don't think it even goes up to 150 anyway. But yeah, really surprising. What really shocks me the most was that the Citroen Saxo Super was the best car for the 1 mile. Like, it doesn't even have that much of a top speed. It really shows that the other cars around it are just that bad. I mean, yeah, it's honestly genuinely impressive. 92 MRA, best car for the half mile and the 1 mile, and I believe is the second best car for the quarter mile, only behind the Alfa Romeo Mito GTA, and that's because the Alfa Romeo has a way lower 0 to 60. I think it's 3.9 when you max it out 233, somewhere along those lines. So the Citroen Saxo is very, very impressive, and I'm gonna put it up there with Blossom Choice. I won't say it's like 100% Blossom Choice, but it's under consideration. I know currently I have the Ginetta G50 Ultra RQ50 under Blossom Choice. I think this is like the fast version. I can't believe I'm saying that, but it's like the fast version of the Ginetta G50, because the Ginetta G50 that's currently Blossom Choice is the best option for like car park and G-force, the super twisty stuff. But the Saxo, surprisingly, just the best car for the 1 mile with a top speed of 124 miles per hour. It just has 92 MRA. It's just ridiculous. So it's a very interesting car where it's like strong in the hyper twisty situations, like your slaloms. I think it was the slaloms, right? It was yeah, slalom twist, twisty circuit, and G-force. But it will lose to the G-force to the G50. And then yeah, on top of that, is also really good with the drags. Usually you either have a car that specializes in hyper twisty or drags, not both. So the Saxo Super, very interesting, really good in those two scenarios, but not good in anything in between, which is very interesting. A part of me wants to say that the times are wrong for the Saxo, but if they truly are correct, which is very hard to believe, honestly, yeah, it's strong, man. It's a strong ass car. Anyway, moving on now is the Citroen AX Sport, the first uncommon of the series. It's a pretty average RQ28. The moment you put in the Galant and the Leaf Nismo, it's utter domination, so I decided to omit them, but I wanted to put them in the comparison just because they're there. But I also want you guys to know that, you know, the Citroen is no competition compared to the Mitsubishi and the Nissan. But when it comes to RQ28, it kind of holds its own. You know, it fights with the Chrysler Laser XT, which is not a bad car at all, and it wins a lot of races against the RQ29 Honda CRX. And obviously, it is the better car compared to most 28s. Beats the Lancia Beta Coupe, Mitsubishi Galant, Vauxhall HP Forenza, which, you know, surprise, surprise, used to be Blossom Choice back in the day, right? So pretty impressive from the AX, I would say. For a 28, it's strong, but the moment you bring in the Leaf and the Galant for, you know, front-wheel drive, medium ground clearance, performance tire uncommons, then it kind of, you know, falters in that comparison. It's all right. I would say it's a slightly above average. Is one of the better uncommons of this update. One that you should definitely keep around. And within that French niche, it's going to be a very useful car in your garage. That's why it's above average. All right, next up is the Skoda Kodiaq. Now, this is the best all-surface tire car, all-surface tire ultra rare in this update, but it's also the best all-surface tire ultra rare in the game in terms of RQ. Like, I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but a lot of the all-surface tire cars that used to be 64 in the past have all gone down. They're like 63 or 62 or 61, and I think there are only 2 RQ64 all-surface tire non-prize ultra rares in the game now, and the Skoda's Kodiaq is one of them, and the other one is in this comparison. It's the Volvo V40 T5 Cross Country. Everything else is just an RQ below. I put in the best handling cars like the Pontiac Torrent GXP and the Infiniti FX35, 2 cars that handle better than the Skoda, but surprise, surprise, the Skoda actually is the better car on hairpin road, twisty circuit, motocross, and airplane slalom, even being able to beat some fully upgraded epics. Now, I know those epics are some of the worst, but it still is a little bit of, you know, an impressive feat, even though the Volvo and the Subaru Outback are utterly trash. And yeah, I mean, shout out to the Nissan X-Trail for 61, still being the best in G-Force, as well as slalom because it's an incredibly light car. Now, I really wanted more times with the Skoda Kodiaq on snow and sand, but unfortunately, as you can see here, there's not a lot of data for it, but it is the best car for twisty circuit, so we know that much, and it's not that good at the G-Force. But we don't know what the times are for the rest of it. Unfortunately, the owner of this car has not put in the snow and sand times. I don't blame him, because if I owned the car and had it max, I wouldn't put in the snow and sand times either. But yeah, time will tell how good the Skoda actually is in those scenarios, but it is pretty damn good in the dirt. So all in all, I'll kind of give it like ever so slightly, like 1% or 2% above average, because I had to tax the car. What is the tax? It's all surface tire tax. Like literally, like at the end of the day, if you're in an ultra situation where you have dirt, you're gonna be better off using a car that has off-road tires. So every all surface tire car is going to get and all surface tire tax. So yeah, at best it's a little bit over average, but yeah, that's gonna be it. Anyway, next up, we're gonna look at the Volvo V70R all-wheel drive RQ49 medium ground clearance for 89 handling as well, and four-wheel drive. I think I said that already. And yeah, it's bad. It's really bad. This is every 49 four-wheel drive medium ground clearance car that I could compare it with: the Audi Quattro, the Alfa Romeo 164, and the Mitsubishi Galant, as well as the Mitsubishi Lancer Sportback Rally Art. And then I threw in the Dodge Challenger GT all-wheel drive as well, just because, and the Challenger actually beats the Volvo on city streets medium, as well as city streets small, as well as hairpin road, which is really sad. But overall, the Volvo is a dud, as with most Volvos in this update. Best in nothing. It's overrated. I don't know why it's 49. It's just sad. Now moving on is the Bizzarrini 5300 GT Strada. Now this car came as a massive shock to me that it was not medium ground clearance, because the on paper stats of that car is truly terrible, but it has one saving grace: the MRA. It's 87, I believe. So is it good enough? Well, I put it on the drags, and as you can see, the answer is absolutely not. The thing is, right, the 0 to 60 on this car is terrible, right, but the MRA is really the only thing that keeps this car up. That 85 MRA is why Hutch thinks it's RQ43. So can it walk the walk? Well, the answer is no. As you can see, it loses to the Chevrolet Corvette ZR2, the Lamborghini Miura P400, and of course the absolutely amazing RQ40 1969 Dodge Charger RT. Did I tell you that's my favorite car? Because that's my favorite car, which is really just sad on the Bizzarrini's part, not being able to beat cars lower than its RQ. But hey, okay, fine. How about I took it away from the drags, which is all it really has to its name because of that because of its MRA. Let's go 323, put it on hybrid situations. Not that good. Again, I'm putting up against other RQ43s, not dragsters, because that wouldn't be fair. But yeah, putting up against like the BMW, the Chevrolet Camaro IROC, some hybrids, some Mazda RX-7s, Giulia TZ, doesn't win anything besides the fast circuit. So when it comes to like RQ43 and below, the Bizzarrini is like probably like your best or second best fast circuit option, and that's it. It's just one or two track sets, and everything else you're better off using other cars. So in my opinion, I think the Bizzarrini is overrated. Honestly, it should go down as a 42 or even 41. I mean, yeah, fast circuit within RQ43, that's it. And the MRA just isn't good enough. It doesn't make a dent at all. No impact in the drag meta for super rares within its RQ. So yeah, very sad. I mean, if anything, the most I would have expected from the Bizzarrini is to be the best super rare RQ43 and below for 1 mile. I don't think it was going to beat Tespol, because the Lamborghini Miura has a way higher, top speed. But the 1 mile was at least it could have done, and it doesn't do that, so that's unfortunate. Anyway, last one I want to talk about is the Zenvo TSR GT, the 9th car of this series. Let me know down in the comments below if you want to see more of these kind of videos. I think you do. It's a 2022 Zenvo TSR GT from Denmark, the best Zenvo that you can unpack in European new wave. So how does it perform? Well, in the drags, which is basically what it prides itself upon, it is second best. It loses to the Koenigsegg Agera Final, which simply has more MRA. Ironically, the Koenigsegg actually has one more handling compared to the Zenvo as well. One thing that I was kind of surprised about though is that the Zenvo and the Koenigsegg actually did beat the Hennessy. So I don't know why the Hennessy is 96. The Hennessy is actually slightly overrated. I think it should go down to a 95 or even a 94. Maybe all of them go down to a 94. Or maybe the Koenigsegg goes up to 95. But yeah, it's really surprising to see actually that the Hennessy is not even the second best car here, but actually the third best behind the Zenvo and the Koenigsegg. But outside of that, yeah, that's about it. Now let's compare the Zenvo to twisty cars, but I think we all know what's going to happen. When you put the Zenvo in a twisty scenario, it's just not good. It's just not good. Yeah, you kind of want to just rely on the Mazda Furai, the Doncomfort D8 GTO, more of the things that you would expect from those cars. The Zenvo was never destined for a twisty situation. It was made for the drags, and unfortunately, it's just not the best one. Yes, it beats a Hennessy, which is impressive, but it does lose to the Koenigsegg Agera Final. So there's some mismatching going on there. If anything, maybe the Hennessy should go down to 94 and the Koenigsegg go up to 96. That would make a little bit more sense. But anyway, my final assessment for the Zenvo is that I'm going to put it slightly above average, well actually way above average, but under Blossom Choice. Still a good car. It is still a good car. To say that you're second best within that 95 RQ range for drags is impressive. But then again, we need to remember one thing. I did not add the Koenigsegg Regera to that comparison. So that, as always in this video, there's always going to be this thing in yellow within comparison. The moment I put in the Koenigsegg Regera, everything's going to change. The Regera is going to be the best car there. So yeah, the Zenvo, it is above average. It's going to be a good car to get if you get it. MRA is great. Top speed is high. Definitely is worthy of 95 RQ, but it's not Blossom Choice or game breaking or anything like that. It's just pretty good. But anyway, guys, that's gonna be it for today. Those are 9 cars from ENW rated, overrated, or overpowered, or Blossom Choice. So let me know down in the comments below what cars you want to see in the next episode of the series. But anyway, guys, that's gonna be it for today. I hope you guys have a great day. But stay safe, wash your hands, and blossom out. Peace.
Bro, this song just makes me so happy.
Me too.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Sit back, relax in my Bonneville Pontiac. Hold tight all night, cruise to Jacksonville,
Atlanta.